you killed it. I'm speechless. I have no other words, but this was awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for that. Ladies, any comments?
I would like to also add that I thought it was phenomenal as well. And I actually started to get emotional. I got so engulfed in the play and so attached to each character that I start to feel the pain that Mama and Grandma were going through. Absolutely. And then when Sis was prophesying, I was like, prophesy, sister, prophesy. And I just got all excited and stirred up. So I said, I hope I can make it to the end so that I can speak articulately on this panel here, because my emotions were starting to rise. You did an amazing job on this play. Everyone did.
Thank you very much.
Just gonna echo what Maisha said. The emotions were all over the place. Karen, she got me there. Karen was true to Karen. Yes, she was. That was good. But Sis really got me when she said in her dialogue, she said, we have made a home out of hell.
Yes.
Oh my God, that got me. And then she said, my ancestors pray for me while you pray on me.
Yeah.
That was deep. I love that. So it was wonderful.
Thank y'all so much for that. We really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and jump into our topics, shall we? So, question number 1, can language be weaponized against communities of color? If so, how? Who'd like to go first? Go ahead.
I can say definitely so. Absolutely. Language and words are used as tools for white supremacy and racist folks who have racist agendas, because they trigger some of the racial stereotypes that the white supremacists have, and also the closet racists have. Those who hide behind being good people also use coded words and coded language when they're speaking. We have a president who uses it from the podium during rallies and presidential speeches, and then calls, Black people and people of color rioters and looters and criminals and thugs. Those types of words, and what they do is they embolden the white supremacists, and they give them the freedom to go out there and commit crimes against Blacks and people of color. One of the examples you gave was in the play when Mama's son was found, by the folks in the camouflage. Right. So, or, attacked by the folks in the camouflage. Mm-hmm. And then also words are used to weaponize our folks, right? So that we become a threat, right? So when a Karen calls the police on a Black man and says, he's threatened me, then the police come armed and ready to eliminate that threat. Right. And crush them, like the play has said, even if it means putting a knee on the neck of that victim, and then turning around and blaming the victim for what happened to him. So those are just some examples of how language and words can be used to victimize.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Yes. Andre, did you want to chime in there?
I certainly did. And, like I said, me trying to get out of the streets of Pittsburgh, because I know there was something had to be outside of that state line. Because as a youth growing up, like I mentioned earlier, the police in my area, we were always told that the police was our friend. They were in the community. I mean, living in the hood and all cops was white. You might have one or two brothers running around, but most of them were white. And so we were told to respect them because they were the law. Right. But there were some officers that trying to make their quota, and people say that's not really a true deal, but it is in the hood because, they drive around and they police an area. If they ain't got nobody to stop or police, they ain't got no JOB because everybody doing their thing. So typically what they would do is, they would say, hey, come over here. What you doing? They wouldn't say, are you on parole like they do today, or if you're on probation? It's pretty much like, hey, where you guys going? Where you ends going? We're like, what? And then of course you're like, hold on, you're supposed to be here to protect and serve. But yeah, then I get a low attitude. Next, it's get on the hood of the car. It's like, let me pat you down, And like I said earlier, I remember playing for a basketball team and just standing outside at a house party, just standing outside, and the Ford units rolled up on me and pushed me up against the fence with no questions asked, and threw me in a paddy wagon. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? You know, they was like, shut up, you know, the N-word, the whole shut up. And they threw me in the back of a paddy
Wow.
wagon with the German Shepherd. So as I'm being transferred
Oh my goodness.
to the police station, they were like, he's not the one. No apology. They put me out on the street and didn't give me a courtesy ride home. So it's that type of environment that I had to endure. But it's now, if I had a cell phone back then, times would be changed, because what our kids and youth and people have today is a weapon, which is that video camera to protect and their rights. I didn't have that. And guess what? This officer might have been the chief of police, but yet I wasn't the first. Trust me, I'm 100% sure that there was others, but we were so afraid of speaking up in our community because we were told that do what they told us to do. Raise your hands. If he calls you over, go over there. But they provoke us to a point where they want you to do something to exacerbate the situation so you can become a statistic in their books.
Yep,
Using the words, using the trigger language to provoke. And as Maisha said, you know, the person that's in the White House does that from his platform all the time. The English language English was not the language of the slaves. English was the language of the colonizers. So from the beginning, the English language was coded to work against us.
Yes.
From how I see it and so when we hear words like certain things, it triggers us. Like I don't know any Black person who hasn't kind of got that side eye when people say, well, you people, or you know, or they or them, or like it's like who exactly is they, or who are the you people that you're speaking of? If I remember, I don't know, Drayden probably knows sports, a college team won, and it was a predominantly white college university, and they damn near burned the city down, torched cars and everything, and it was a party that got out of hand. But when people of color, like Maisha said, when we peacefully protest, we're rioters and we're looters, and our Black men are not rowdy, they're thugs and they're criminals. So coded language has been used against people of color from the beginning. Before America was shaped into America, the language was coded to use it against.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ursula, for that. And that's going to segue us into our next question. What are the immediate consequences of police brutality as it relates to Black and Latinx communities? Who'd like to go first? Go ahead, Andre.
I mean, I could say nothing. I mean, it's at this point right now, what we're witnessing in America, which is a tragedy and a travesty up and down, we've seen it every day. And how do we fix it? I mean, of course, we can vote, but if you're living in fear, if you're in a certain area where you know you're being controlled by the establishment, which is the popo, which is the police, you know, you have a tendency to want to look away. Because of course, snitches get stitches. You know, if you try to do the right thing and try to address police brutality, now you're either subject to either who snitched, who said that. Oh, now I'm a victim. So the only way you fix it is the way I see we're doing today: peaceful protests, taking a stance on it, calling a spade, dealing with the situation at hand. Right. Again, snitches get stitches. You know what? I'll take stitches all day, but you know what? If you're gonna put your knee on me, somebody better speak up. Because you know, it's a sad day when it's 2020 and I have to have a conversation with my son about the police. I mean, are we not past that? You know, I mean, it's to this day, it still resonates with me. Like, you know, when somebody called me a boy, I'm 53. If you call me a boy, guarantee I'm going downtown. So, you know, it's those little nuances that folks still think it's still okay to say that without repercussions. Right. So for me personally, systemic racism, police brutality, all works hand in hand because again, the police know those trigger words. They know the words that's going to incite and go and send me to jail or to the morgue, one of the two.
Yes. Thank you so much, Andre. Maisha, did you want to go ahead and jump in?
Oh, sure. Well, there's different kinds of consequences for the police officer. There's very few, little to no consequence. Some do get charged, but very rarely do they even get convicted of violence against Black people or people of color. So for them, the consequences are actually rare. Okay, so but there are consequences to the communities, the Latinx and Black communities that are being affected by this, right? So the consequences for the mamas and the grandmas is that they're losing their sons and their daughters,
Yes.
their grandbabies to this violence by the police officers. There's no reason why a little child should get shot by a police officer for carrying a gun. So the consequence is that by the government not taking care of the bad police officers, the police officers who are shooting people in these communities, the consequence is that young people are getting shot at a high rate, and even adults and women, unarmed people are getting shot left and right and killed. The consequences are that, for some of the folks who aren't directly impacted by it, there are indirect consequences.
Yeah.
There's high schoolers who live in the neighborhoods where police killings happen, where those high schoolers have a low chance of even graduating high school, or they have a 2% chance or something like that for even enrolling in college. So there's direct consequences, and then there's indirect consequences. Also, you have fear, you have loathing that is occurring in these communities, and hate for law enforcement, a distrust for law enforcement, to where they don't want to do anything that they say. And even when they do what the officer says and they still get killed, it just makes it even worse. So there's consequences on both sides, and inconsequence. There's no consequence on some sides.
Thank you so much. That was brilliantly stated. Thank you very much. Ursula?
Maisha just said it all. She's exactly right. There's indirect and direct consequences for us. As I shared earlier, I remember being in elementary school, and they would have police officers come to the school, for support day, and you got to meet a police officer and talk to a police officer. And I remember all the kids being excited and thinking that yay, look, a police officer. I want to be a police officer when I grow up. But I had the opportunity to go to my daughter's classroom before the COVID situation happened. And we have a classroom full of sixth graders. And when you ask them how they feel about the police, they're scared.
Yeah.
We hate the police. The police want to kill us. There's no more of the, I want to be a police officer. There's no respect for them. It's sorry that a few rotten apples spoil the whole bunch, because not all white cops are bad cops.
Right.
But when you see these things happening all the time, that's the way you feel about it. It's hard to separate it, because I can't tell my son, he might be a good white cop, so you'll be okay. No, I have to tell him what to do in the event that they all are that way. So Maisha is right. Fear and hate is the consequence for our community.
Yes. Oh, man.
We're tired of taking L's. We're tired of losing. It seems like, like Maisha mentioned, some police officers do, suffer whatever the penalties they do for their crimes. But realistically, when we hear of an African American or a Black man get shot, you know what? We're waiting with bated breath to see if the officer is going to be charged.
Right.
And in theory, we already know it's going to happen, but we just have that little bit of hope that we're going to at least be recognized, and it's a victory. And it shouldn't be a victory, but that's how we feel, is that we've been taking constant L's from lynchings and from just feeling like we're still second-class citizens. But yet, you'll cheer for a LeBron James, you'll root for all our Black athletes, and yet, but I am still I'm gumming to the table to you because I can't make a bucket, or I'm not famous. And again, I just think that the police officers, there's some good ones out there. I got some friends that are police officers. However, that racism that was already in them when they put the uniform on. It just wasn't like they put it. It's like they went in the bag and picked out a uniform and said, "Oh, I got the racism uniform." It was in them when they put it on.
Right.
But also, our brothers and sisters that are law officials need to call a spade and dress and speak out and speak up. And don't worry about the blue, because you know what? I can hear Blue Lives Matter every freaking day. It mattered when I was a kid, but tell George Floyd that. Tell Breonna Taylor that. It didn't matter. So at this point, I am hoping and I'm hopeful that people who attended this workshop today hear those words that was uttered by these students, because every day those are what we're living by. That's government. That was what power us to be careful. You know, you see a red police light, your heart beating fast, like, oh, what did I do wrong? We've already went from what did I do wrong? I ain't did nothing wrong.
Right.
We're already there. Like, what did I do wrong? And so I hope those that are can actually understand that these students, the words you guys uttered, has a profound everyday reaction and effect to us. So I commend you for even trying to put yourself in our shoes for a few seconds, an hour, but just understand that the words you utter are the words that we hear and we live by every day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that.
How much more can we stand, Lord? Pray for rain. I'm praying for rain.
Yes. Oh man, there's so much to unpack with being Black in America. There's so much. Our final question: what action should Black, Indigenous, and people of color take to combat systemic racial oppression?
Ursula, start first time. Ursula.
Oh, now you want me to go.
Help us. What should we do, Ursula? What should we do?
Well, let's see. I'm going to say first, we can start by doing what we're doing now, some of the things that have been done and we're doing now. My daughter is, I'm sure parents have a lot of us have kids doing school from home now. So I'm working from home. She's doing school from home, but I'm listening. We're in the, she's in the next room. So I'm listening. And for like the past 3 weeks or so, they've been covering Black history, Black Lives Matter, equality, inequality, racial bias, anti-Blackness. And I'm like, it's not even February. And like they're talking about, and they're learning, and I'm listening to what, and that, gets my attention because I want to hear what her teacher is going to say and how she's addressing it. And so far, I've been very pleased with the way that they have been handling those conversations with the students, and that it's a mixed race, ethnicity classroom, but they've been handling it really well. And I can remember, I'm sure all of you can, when you only talked about Blackness, Black history, Black people, Black issues during Black History Month.
Yep.
And now they're having these conversations all the time. So I think that's one way. We should always remember that we can do better. We've come a long way, but we can do better, and we need to keep addressing the things and keep creating those things that push us forward and move us forward to do better. Each generation does a little bit better than the last. The young kids today, I think I'm still pretty young, but the younger kids today, they are awesome. They are on fire, but we can't sit back and say, okay, let them do it. We still have to do our work too. I know Southwestern College has, under Dr. Murillo's leadership and our ELT, we've made huge strides in our own campus, in our own college. I feel like we've defined the commitment that Southwestern College has to commit to diversity and inclusion. We're starting to see that in our leadership. We're seeing it in our administrative ranks. We're seeing it in our student body. So, we just have to keep doing that within our own organizations. We just have to keep remembering that we matter. We got to keep having these conversations, even if they're difficult conversations. You have to have the difficult conversations. Black lives matter. Black dreams matter. Black women matter. Black men matter. Black children matter. Black families matter. We matter. And we have to keep that at the forefront and keep pushing and forging ahead and having a conversation and creating and doing these things that help us to do better. We just need to remember that we can always do better.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Ursula. Thank you very much for that.
And I think for me and everything Ursula just uttered, we need allies. Okay.
Yes.
We look at our kids today and come from walks of life, and they play together. They united. I mean, what I saw in the marches with regards to the Black Lives March, and you didn't have only black folks. You had predominantly maybe more whites, more Latinas, but we need to create a good platform for our allies. Because you know what, I if I hear one more again, I got black friends, that doesn't mean jack to me.
Right.
It means actually zero to me that you got black friends. You telling me like that's an honor. You should have black friends. You should have Asian friends. You should have, but we need to establish our allies and let them know that, you see me, I'm not the angry black man. I'm just asking for the same thing that white privilege is getting. I mean, I don't expect my credit score to jump up, 500 the next day. But what I'm asking for is the same fair treatment that white privilege, which is really real, to be acknowledged and understand it. The
Right.
Karens of the world. If I'm walking down the street and you cross over the street, you're fearful that I'm going to rob you. I might be scared you're going to rob me. So let's understand that we need allies. My skin color is just what I was born into, as well as
Absolutely.
anybody else. But we were not told to be afraid of the white man. And I'm sure some of today's kids wasn't taught to be scared of black people. But if you got some old grandpas back from Mississippi, they still holding on. They clinging on to that. That's all they got left. And if they're still practicing and teaching that, all they do is need to just hold on, get one person to hold on to that mantra, and they'll spew it out.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just like we need more allies. So if you're out there and you listening, when you hear a black man or a black woman tell you how they really feel, don't say, I hear you, listen. Because I don't need a response. I need you to hear me first. Then I will clue you in when I want to hear your response. Don't interject. Don't cut me off, because at the end of the day, this is my life. These are my shoes. This is my skin. You can think how I feel, but until you walk in my shoes, until you feel your heart beating out your chest when you see a red light behind you, and it could be an ambulance, fire truck, you're like, oh shit, it's me. Oh my, you get paranoid.
Yeah.
And that should not be the way we should be. So allies, join up, join these forces, because you know what? Black lives matter. And we're not saying all lives, but right now we're talking about black lives. Okay.
Yeah.
Black lives matter. And that is so important today. If you can utter those words, because our president can't mention it, if you can utter those words, that's the first step for you actually making change and creating a difference in this freaking world today.
Black Lives Matter. Amen. Yes. Thank you, Andre. Aisha?
You know what? Everything that Andre and Ursula said was so profound. There isn't a whole lot to add to that. What I would include, or maybe expand or expound upon, is the fact that we have been indoctrinated since stepping foot onto this American soil, and the Americas, Caribbean, all the other just the whole diaspora. Wherever we landed, we were indoctrinated to hate ourselves. That was the first thing. And so right now, what we need to do is we need to unlearn that. We need to no longer hate ourselves, but embrace ourselves, embrace who we are, embrace our history, understand what our history is, teach our children, teach those around us what it is, not be ashamed of it, but teach folks how to learn from it, right?
Yes.
And then never let anyone take away who we are from us again, or from our children.
That's a mic drop right there.
Preach, Maisha. Preach, Maisha.
Let it be taken from us again. The time is now to take back what is truly ours and who we really are. We can embrace our culture. It's okay. That's one thing. The other thing I would say is, because you did ask a question about Indigenous people, and I did want to say that is the same for Indigenous people, and then we need to support one another with our dollars. I mentioned this before. We need to support one another with our dollars.
Yes.
We need to take money away from money that we spend, away from areas in which exploit and oppress us. Take it away and put it toward areas that help to build us. That's where it should go. That's another thing. In addition to that, I say that we elect officials that have the same ideals that we do. Okay? So that advocacy, those allies, those are the people that need to be in the office. Those are the people that we need to elect because they're going to fight on our behalf. We need to teach our youngsters that it's okay to be a politician. No young person that I've ever talked to said they wanted to grow up and be president or a politician, a community organizer, or anything.
Mm-hmm.
We need to teach them that's okay. You know, we need to get some. Yeah, we need to train up some people. We need to teach people the truth too about our history.
Yeah.
There's a lot of history that goes unsaid, unspoken about. Although they are talking about Black history, it's always the same stuff. There's way more history than what we are being exposed to, and those children are being exposed to. The other thing is that we need to vote.
Yes.
We need to vote. We need to vote for the people who are going to fight against the injustices that we're currently seeing and that we think we may see in the near future. So we need to vote.
Y'all hear that?
Oh.
We need to vote.
Every vote counts.
Everybody
Every
on this.
vote counts. Yes.
Well, wow, this has been such a powerful learning experience for me, for our audience members, our cast. Thank y'all so much for taking time out of your busy schedules. I know y'all are busy, professional, working Black professional folks. So just thank you very much for being here with us tonight, reading the script and watching.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. We'll be back tomorrow night, same time. And then we'll be back Wednesday for our final performance. So please tell your friends and family, invite them to come. It's free. You just need to register to get the link. I am Tanika Batiste, and good night.
Thank you, Tanika.
An amazing job.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Do not take your breath for granted, people.
Don't take your breath for granted.
That's right. Breathe.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.